Welcome to the Leadership Culture and Performance Podcast. My name is Purity, and today I want us to talk about why your degree is not enough to secure you a job. I'm not here to bash education. I am a HR leader. I've hired hundreds of people, sat across brilliant candidates, looked, at impressive CVs and still said no. I've also hired people who made me do double take on their resumes, and they became some of the best performers I've ever worked with. So this is not an anti-education conversation. However, it's a reality conversation, and I think you deserve that. I'd like to paint you a picture. It's a Tuesday morning. My inbox has 47 applications for one role, and I'm looking through them, and I kid you not, at least 35 of them have degrees from solid universities. Some have 2 degrees. A couple have master's degree. One person has a PhD applying for mid-level role. And that's a whole other conversation we'll have another day. So the point is, everyone has a degree. So if everyone has one, what exactly is making you stand out? Because here's what the degree tells me as a hiring manager. It tells me you could commit to something for 3 or 4 years. It tells me you can follow a structure, meet deadlines, and retain information well enough to pass your exams. Those are not nothing. Please don't get me wrong, but that's essentially what it signals. What it does not tell me is whether you can handle ambiguity, whether you can sit in a room with a difficult client and not fall apart, whether you can lead without a title, whether you can think on your feet when the plan goes sideways. And sometimes the plan always goes sideways. So those things the degree can't teach you. And frankly, those are the things that I'm actually hiring for. The job market has shifted dramatically, and we are no longer in an era where credentials alone open doors. We're in what I call prove it era. And good employers, for example, the ones you actually want to work for, are asking different questions now. They're asking, what do you have? They're asking, what have you done? And that is the distinction, I had a candidate a few months ago, no traditional degree, but she had spent 2 years building a community online around a niche topic. She had managed volunteers across 3 countries. She had run campaigns, made mistakes publicly, recovered from them publicly, and documented all of it. She walked in and just radiated competence. She knew who she was. She knew what she could do, and she could show me what she's done. Frankly, I hired her and she's thriving. Now I want to compare that to someone I interviewed the same week. Stellar academic record, great university, a lovely person. But when I asked them to walk me through a time they failed and what they learned, there was silence, genuine silence. And then a very rehearsed answer that told me nothing real about who they are. That's the gap that I want us to talk about. So I would like us to get a bit practical because I don't believe in just pointing out problems without offering solutions. When I'm looking at a candidate holistically, and this is true for most serious hiring managers, I know I'm looking for 4 things. First, self-awareness. Do you know who you are? Do you know your strengths and your blind spots? Are you very honest about both? Because the candidate who walk in thinking they are the finished product, they are so exhausting to work with. I want you to give someone who says, I am strong in this area. I'm still developing this one. And here's what I'm doing about it. That person is very coachable. That person will grow. That's what I want on my team. The second one is evidence of initiative. What have you done when nobody told you? What problems did you see and decide to solve without being asked? This doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be a side project. It could be a process you improved in a particular job. It could be the way you organized your student society, for example. I'm looking for the instinct, to act, because this instinct doesn't come from a lecture hall. The third is how you communicate, not whether you're eloquent, not whether you speak like a TED talk, but whether you're clear, whether you listen, whether you can take something complicated and make it very simple, whether you adjust when the person in front of you isn't following. For me, communication is a skill, and most CVs tells me absolutely nothing about whether someone actually has it. And lastly, resilience. I want to know if you've been through something hard. I want to know whether you failed, and how that stung, for example, and how did you, get back, and how did you probably maybe figure it out? Not because I want people to suffer, but because the workplace is not controlled environment. Things can go wrong, budget get cut, projects fail. I need to know that, you can handle that without even feeling apart. None of those four things come, stamped on a certificate. They are built through experience, through reflection, through choosing to grow, when it could have been easier not to do so. A lot of people graduate and feel this quiet panic because, they thought the degree was the destination. They did everything right. They went to the university, they got the grades, they attended the career fairs, and now they're applying for jobs and it's not working the way they expected. And instead of someone sitting them down and saying, hey, the degree was just an entry point, now the real work begins, they get silent. Or worse, they even get platitudes, keep applying, network more, your time will come, and so on and so forth. So that's not helpful. That's not honest. What I want to say to anyone in that position right now is that degree got you the right to be in the room, but what happens inside that room, that's on you. And the good news is that, genuinely good news is that those skills, those qualities, the evidence of who you are, you can build it right now wherever you are. So start creating, start contributing, find problems and try to solve it. Write about what you're learning, volunteer, build something, fail at something small so you can handle something bigger. Document your growth, not for vanity, but because when you walk into that interview, you will have a story to tell, a real one. And real stories land, differently than rehearsed answers. I've been in HR long enough to know that, the people you thrive, long term are not always the ones who looked best on paper at the start. They're the ones who stayed curious, who stayed humble, who understood that your career is something you built, not something you're handed. That degree matters. I'm not dismissing it, but it is one chapter. And you're treating it like the whole book. You're just setting yourself for frustration. So if you're a student, a recent graduate, or even someone in mid-career who's been coasting on credentials, take this as a nudge. You're building right now and will still matter 5 years from today. That's the question. Not what did I study, but what am I doing? Because that's what the best employer is asking. And honestly, that is what the best version of you is probably already asking too. I hope this landed to you today, and if it did, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because I genuinely believe we need to have more honest conversations like this. I'll be back next week. Until then, keep learning with intention. Take care. Adios.